Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of David Rides a Trike. I'm David, I'm riding a trike. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, I try to provide a little motivation to people, especially those with chronic illnesses and disabilities, to get outside and do some fun form of exercise. Why? Because it could be therapeutic, and doing something fun usually turns out to be a lot of fun. Personally, I fall into both the chronically ill and having a disability categories. I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic when I was 1.5 years old. I've had 3 organ transplants. I'm legally blind. I've had all kinds of surgeries, severe internal infections, and honestly so many things that I can't even remember them all at this point. So today it is a balmy 34 degrees as I'm out riding. Trail's actually in decent condition, surprised me. And I was going to talk about something, but I changed my mind because of something I saw on TV. They mentioned diabetic seizures. Now, this was a term that I wasn't familiar with. And I was a type 1 diabetic for the first 30 plus years of my life. Sorry, 40 plus. So once again, I turned to the Google machine and found out that diabetic seizures are what hello, and my family used to call insulin reactions. That is when your blood sugar gets too low, out of the normal range. One of my earliest memories as a kid was when I was 3, 4 years old, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd feel like the bed was swallowing me. Literally, I'd be sitting in the middle of the bed and the bed felt like it was folding up around me. That was an insulin reaction, what's now called a diabetic seizure. And I would start crying, call for my parents. They knew right away what it was. They would run and get me a teaspoon of syrup, and the sugar in that would bring my blood sugar back up to a normal range. And as I grew up, I learned to recognize the symptoms of these reactions. And they could vary from patient to patient. For me, I would get weak, disoriented, very low energy, and I would, when I was a kid, I always carried a couple of pieces of hard candy with me. I would eat them and that would take care of things. As I got older, however, and this is something that does happen with type 1 diabetics, although from what they told me at the time, it was pretty rare. I lost that ability. Hello. I lost that ability to sense when my blood sugars were too low. Consequently, I would function and not realize that something was wrong, which became very dangerous. I was driving at the time, and I could get in the car with my blood sugar too low and Fortunately, nothing serious. Hello. Nothing serious ever happened. But there were times where I'd be driving home from work and I literally would get lost. A ride I'd done hundreds of times, suddenly I had no idea how to get home. And it just did not click anymore that I was having an insulin reaction, a diabetic seizure, and I would drive around until somehow I finally made it home. Keep in mind, back then, there were no insulin pumps, and more importantly, no blood glucose meters. I could not prick my finger or put my phone to a sensor on my arm and see what my blood sugar was. The only way to know was to go to the doctor, have them do it, and they'd send it out to a lab. So that was actually one of the primary reasons I ended up having a pancreas transplant. I just couldn't go on living like that. It was far too dangerous. So why am I telling you this? Well, A, to just give you a little insight as to what it's like to grow up as a diabetic. But more importantly, I want to ask you to help me put an end to this for especially all the kids who are out there right now living with type 1 diabetes. How can you do this, you ask? Very easy. Right down here, hello, is a URL. If you follow it, and I'll put it in the description below so you can just click on it, it will take you to my page for what is called the Tour de Cure. The Tour de Cure is a national bike ride. It takes place locally across the country in different locations, and this next one, like last year's, is going to be virtual because of COVID. But it's a fundraising effort to try and stop diabetes and to help those currently living with it. So I'm asking you, whatever you could do, $5, $10, $25, $100, whatever you could do is greatly appreciated. I feel very fortunate. I was able to get through all of those insulin reactions or diabetic seizures with no long-term consequences. But if someone has one of these and it goes undetected and there's no one around to help, it can and does become fatal. So please, if you can, make a donation and help this effort to end diabetes. I'd really appreciate it. And if you could, please share this video with others. The more people that see it, the more money that can be raised, and the more informed people can be. That's it for this ride. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next ride. Bye-bye.